Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As usual, I'm Ari here with Korea. How is your day going, Korea?
You know how I'm doing. You know how I'm
Yeah,
doing.
no need to beat
What
around the bush.
let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Okay, yeah, I guess just break down when you first heard the news, what went through your mind, and I guess now that we were able to have a sleep through it, and 24 hours later, not even 24 hours, but about 24 hours. What are you feeling right now?
So I was just scrolling on my phone. I think I was watching YouTube, and then one of my good friends, shout out Adam, he texted the group chat. He said, "Oh my god!" And I started reading everything, and it's Seahawks, Broncos, and I already knew it was Russell Wilson, and I I was in shock. I literally had my mouth open, jaw dropped, pause, but jaw dropped, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was fake. I was praying that it was fake at first, but then it just sunk more and more that this is real. Russell Wilson is not going to be in Seattle anymore. And then I started to, I was just waiting for the trade. I was waiting for the because I all I saw was like Broncos and Seahawks trade Russell Wilson to Denver in a haul of picks, and I was thinking, okay, what is the haul? And I was hearing how it's like one of the largest hauls in NFL history. I was like, okay, this better be a good haul then. And then I started reading the trade, and I was analyzing. Okay, so it's two firsts, back-to-back first-round picks, both for this year and next year. Same for the seconds. We gave them our fourth. We get a fifth, and then throughout all of that, we also get Drew Lock, who I really didn't. I honestly would have preferred Teddy Bridgewater, but I knew he was like a free agent, so Drew Lock was probably going to be their guy that they were giving up. And then I saw Shelby Harris, and I was thinking, wait, don't they have guys like Bradley Chubb and Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain, who they just drafted? Why are we only getting Shelby Harris? Why couldn't we get someone else like in their secondary, which something that we needed to address was our pass defense. And Patrick Surtain is that perfect guy. And assuming Quandre Diggs does test free agency, even though I think he is returning, we could have traded for at least Justin Simmons, but we got Shelby Harris and then Noah Fant. I mean, yes, Noah Fant is a top 5 tight end. He gets it done all the time, but still, like, yes, we are thin at the tight end position with Disley being a free agent this year and Everett being a free agent after signing that 1-year deal. And I believe Parkinson is still there. So it would have been Parkinson and someone that we would have to sign in free agency. So I just don't think the value that we got in this trade is really significant because you look at the draft picks too. We have a 2022 first. They're at number 9 this year in a weak quarterback class right now. I mean, the quarterback class, it's not like it's bad. I just know next year's is even stronger. And there have been plenty of better quarterback classes in the past that we could have used that Russell Wilson trade for. For example, I remember back in like 2000, I think it was the year of Josh Allen's draft class year. What was that, 2018, 2019?
Something like that.
Yeah, in that trade, we were thinking of trading, I think, Russell Wilson to Cleveland, getting the number 1 overall pick, and drafting, guess who? Josh Allen. Like, that's a better situation because Josh Allen is proven to be that guy. And it just makes me question what is really going on in the front office. Jody Allen and John Snyder, I'm calling you out right now. If they see this, please let them see this. You two are the most idiotic people I've ever seen in the earth. I'm idiotic, stupid. I could not believe the haul that we got. It's a haul, but when you realize like the haul that we're getting a first-round pick this year in a weak QB class where we need a QB now, but we're probably going to use Drew Lock. Okay, so now we have Denver's 2023 first. Now think, Denver is trying to win a Super Bowl. Is that going to be a good first-round pick No, that's going to be near the bottom of the first round, which means we would have to trade up for a guy like, oh, I don't know, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, that draft class for next year. It doesn't make sense. We needed at least 3 firsts. There were plenty of trades before this trade happened that were at least 3 firsts. I mean, the only reason, and I get this, but at the same time, it's so ridiculous, is because Russell Wilson they wanted Russell Wilson to go to the other conference, the AFC. And I was thinking, okay, so we could not get 3 firsts for this? Not 3 firsts? Are you crazy? That is beyond ridiculous. John Schneider and Jody Allen pretty much ruined and killed the many hearts of Seattle on March 8th, 2022. I could not believe it. I literally had to sit down and just process everything for about, a good 2 to 3 hours, thinking Russell Wilson is not going to be playing it here anymore. He's going to be playing against Patrick Mahomes twice a year, Justin Herbert twice a year, and Derek Carr twice a year. I am not pleased at the way we handled this trade, because I've been telling you this. I've been telling everybody on all my friends, even on this show. I've been telling people that Russell Wilson is going to be traded. I internally accepted that fact. What I don't accept is the haul that we got in return. Because when you think about it, now and then don't even start with the Deshaun Watson. We're going to talk about it in a little bit, but still, like, the fact that we only got 2 firsts for Russell Wilson is kind of mind-boggling. And we had to give up a pick, and we're getting Shelby Harris on that defense instead of guys like Bradley Chubb or Patrick Surtain or pretty much anyone who could actually be a significant role player in our defense. So, in all, like, obviously, it sucks to see Russell Wilson leave. It still has not really hit me yet, and I think the moment it's gonna hit me is when I see those training camp pictures of him in a Denver Broncos jersey. That's when it's really gonna hit me. Or even the fact of, it's just the worst coincidence is that Denver plays in Seattle this next coming season. How? Oh, like, give it at least 2 years. Like, oh, that's like, and I already know that game better be on a Sunday night, and that game better be packed, because I know Seattle fans are going to love him with every single breathing second. But, I knew it was coming. I just thought it was going to be coming, toward, more toward the draft and not before free agency even started. So it was a little bit of a shock, especially with how great John Schneider of an actor is. That man is a great actor. And I'm not blaming Russell Wilson because he said he was staying in Seattle too. I'm blaming John Schneider because he's the one who was telling the media, oh no, we're keeping him. Russell Wilson can say anything. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. Russell Wilson saying he's going to stay or leave, no one knows what he's really going to do. But the fact that the GM was saying this made it more believable to me. And then I see that yesterday, and I'm like, okay, yeah, John Schneider, he's a great actor. He should become an actor. But he should not be a GM because that man is incompetent. He's idiotic. He's stupid. He's foolish. I have never liked this man. I've never liked his draft strategy ever since he came here. The trades that he's done is ridiculous. Don't forget the Jimmy Graham trade. That was one of the most ridiculous trades I've ever seen in my life. And now I see this trade. Oh, and don't forget, 2 years ago, you know who we traded? Jamal Adams for 2 picks. And where is Jamal Adams now? He's at the front line of the defensive side of the ball instead of the goddamn secondary where he should be. So, in all of this, I really cannot understand why John Schneider chose Pete Carroll, who is 70 years old, one of the oldest head coaches in the National Football League. He chose to keep him, who has at least maybe 1 or 2 years left on him before he either retires or is probably going to get fired, over Russell Wilson, who, yes, got injured, came back, tried his best with what he was working with. We had no Chris Carson. And, the offensive line is absolute crap. We've been seeing this since 2016. And he still won games. And even in the Pro Bowl skill thing, when he was throwing that ball, he looked like it was him again. So John Schneider has to be one of the most incompetent general managers I've ever seen in football. He literally, I mean, I've seen bad ones. Trust me, there are worse situations like the Giants. That's a train wreck situation right there. But John Snyder has turned this city from a Seahawks football city to a Seattle Mariners fan club city because he absolutely killed Seahawks hopes right now. Could not believe it. And that's my rant. Just John Snyder is ridiculous. Could not believe it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were a lot of different emotions yesterday, and then like thinking, oh, is this like a nightmare? Is this a dream or whatever? Like in regards to what you're talking about with like Schneider, like in most scenarios, it's the case where the GM has more power than the coach, but this is like a weird situation where Carroll has just as much power in certain ways as Schneider. So, like ever since Paul Allen tragically passed away and his sister Jodie Allen took over as the owner, and like with all due respect, like she's shown nothing to like really like care about like making these moves, and so like I don't know all of the inside information with like kind of who has more information, or I guess who has more power between Carroll and Schneider. But it seems like in some ways Carroll's more power. So I feel like I'm not sure if Schneider made all these decisions. I think it was Carroll too. Um, yeah, I mean obviously Russell Wilson had the no trade clause, and so obviously, and he could have waived it if he wanted to. So part of it seemed like the last couple of years Russell Wilson was kind of slowly wanting out, and originally I kind of had some hope that that was just all media pushing that agenda, I guess, and not it being the case for Wilson. But now it kind of shows you that Wilson, I guess, maybe did kind of want out these last couple of years or last 1 to 2 years, I guess it's been. And so I guess in some ways, if he was going to be unhappy this upcoming year, then it's better to trade him now. Um, I don't know. I guess like yeah, the Hall definitely. I thought it would be more like it's basically what they traded Jamal Adams. Like it's basically like they just got back the capital, like in some ways. But I guess Washington and the Giants both had better offers. I'm not sure if it was Wilson's no trade clause or if it was the Seahawks not wanting to trade him in conference of them not trading him to one of those two teams. But
I believe, I think it was the Washington trade that was vetoed because they didn't want to trade him inside the NFC, which is also another reason why the Bears trade back in the offseason last year was denied because they offered 3 firsts, 2 starters, and I believe one of them was like talking about Khalil Mack at the time, and I think a 3rd rounder, which would have been an absolute haul we would have came in for Russell Wilson.
yeah. So yeah, obviously a lot of different emotions yesterday. As a Seahawks fan, now it's just like Pete Carroll, they just gave him the 5-year extension. What like last year, and so like it's just hard to imagine rebuilding, or 2 years ago.
I think that was like 2020.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So yeah, I think it was 5 years through 2025. So yeah, that would have been 2 years ago. And so now we have, this Deshaun Watson talk coming up. We'll know Friday if he's going to be cleared or not, according to Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. We'll talk about Carson Wentz in a bit, but Washington was one of the suitors for Watson, so that puts them out of the race. So now, I mean, I've only really seen this morning, I saw the Panthers and the Seahawks were tagged to him. So at this point, it seems like it's either Watson or full rebuild at this point. If they go full rebuild, I would assume Pete Carroll will step away in a year or two because it's hard to believe at this point in his career, at his age, that he's going to want to go through a full rebuild. And that's partly why I feel like in some ways it was more so Russell Wilson wanting to leave than Carroll or Schneider wanting to trade him because if you asked me 2 months ago, I thought Wilson trade was very likely, but like as the offseason went on and based on how last season ended, I thought they were going to run it back 1 year and then trade him next offseason with 1 year left in his contract. Obviously, the risk with that is that his trade value could be even lower than what it is right now if they waited. But yeah, I mean, Drew Lock isn't it? Like he's not like he's just a throw in. if they don't trade for Watson, then Locke will probably be a bridge quarterback for 1 year, and they'll either draft a quarterback this year with the number 9 pick, or they'll wait for what should be a stronger 2023 class the following year. But yeah, I mean, this is if they don't trade for Watson and they go through with this rebuild, this will be the first real interesting NFL draft as a Seahawks fan in a long time. And then, yeah, you mentioned Denver coming to Seattle. I assume it's just going to be a kind of a combination of a lot of different emotions from Seahawks fans. Some cheer, some boo, some mixture. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's not. Did you have anything else to add? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. You talked about like it's more Russell Wilson wanting to leave, and I see more evidence of it. I mean, I saw this thing on Twitter from the Colin Cowherd podcast, and Greg Olson, who played for Seattle, was like back in the 2020 season. He was on, and he was talking about this whole situation, and he was talking about how the coaches were just kind of, more focused on defense and trying to, build around the defense and play the game around the defense and have Russell Wilson save him in the fourth quarter instead of, having Russell Wilson lead this game and be that dominant QB in like a passing offense like, I don't know, Kansas City, where they actually win more games. So I agree with you 100%. I think this is mostly on John and Pete. That 1-2 ridiculous combo, dumb and dumber, as I like to call him right now. I mean, you talk about Pete being in his 70s. By the time his contract ran out, he's probably going to be, 73, 74? And in a full rebuild, why would you want a 70-year-old head coach who's calling plays back when he was at USC? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we're in an evolving system of gameplay. Like, you see the two head coaches who were in the Super Bowl. It was Zach Taylor, who was very young, and Sean McVay, who is incredibly young. And they have the new systems that can beat defenses. And Pete Carroll is so focused on the defense that he's forgetting that we have Russell Wilson, and he's not really using him correctly. So I believe Russell Wilson wanted to be traded as well. He actually pretty much needed to if he wanted to actually be that guy, because everyone was saying, oh, was Russell Wilson that guy? And I see it now. It's not because of his inability to throw the ball or whatever, and all of these nonsense rumors from the media. It's just because of Pete Carroll and just the way his game is played. It's all around the defense and not focused on the offense. So if I was Russell Wilson, I would have left that situation as well. And it's not like Russell Wilson, he was kind of pushed out. I mean, he had no choice. What, he was going to stay here and put up mediocre numbers again with Pete Carroll because obviously John chose Pete over Russ? No, he has to get out of that situation. And so Denver, I believe Denver is going to be a Super Bowl contender automatically. We also heard rumors that they may bring in Tyler Lockett as well. And I would not be surprised because obviously Lockett and Wilson have that special connection that no wide receiver quarterback has. You just seen the catches Tyler Lockett's made in the back of the end zone for the Seattle, or those deep ones against Arizona back in 2020. But yeah, it's shocking. But I'm just more disappointed in our front office and Pete Carroll than, Russell Wilson leaving. This was kind of expected, but I was hoping that John Schneider would actually, have some more common sense. Turns out he didn't.
I've had kind of mixed feelings about this. Are you gonna be rooting for Denver and Wilson, or what's obviously not when they play the Seahawks at one game, but just in general, are you are you more supporting of Russell Wilson winning in Denver, or are you kind of the other way around? I'm 50-50 right now.
I'm a little more 50-50. I'm leaning toward also maybe supporting just because I know Denver, obviously we played him in the Super Bowl, so it's kind of, a little wonky, but it's not like he's going to this. He's not like he's going to the Bucs, right? I mean, we're not playing him, and we're only playing him this year, and then I don't know, probably in 4 years we'll see him next, which I don't even know if he'll be in the – we don't even know if he'll be in the league in 4 years. So, I mean, I'm obviously supporting of him because, I mean, it would be kind of cool, if we meet Denver in the Super Bowl, 4 years down or whatever, however long this rebuild or whatever we do with the Watson situation works out with. But I'm not going to be rooting against him. I'm not going to boo Russell Wilson because I know what he's done to the city. I mean – I still remember, I have it up here. It's my rookie autograph from that man. I mean, I got rookie year autograph Russell Wilson. Like, that's special. Like, I saw this guy out of Wisconsin. I was like, this guy's going to be special. And what did he do? He's led us to so many playoff appearances. He brought us our first Super Bowl in franchise history. You can't hate on that. But at the same time, like, obviously it's Denver and we beat him in the Super Bowl. So it's kind of like, a revenge thing, whatever. But at the same time, I'm not going to boo Russell Wilson. The only people I'm going to boo are Pete Carroll and John Snyder because they're the ones messing up the organization. So, but obviously I'm not going to become a Denver Broncos fan. Come on now. But I'm obviously going to, wish him the best because I know it wasn't really his decision to leave. It was kind of him being pushed out because of no pushback from because of all the pushback from the coaches and that front office. So I'm leaning toward definitely supporting him in Denver, but, not being a Denver fan, but, just wishing him the best as a Bronco now.
Size in the building. We'll get into fantasy after. Let's just talk about fantasy first. I mean, obviously, Judy and Sutton get a huge boost. I think that kind of goes without needing to be said with Judy and Sutton. They lost Fant, but that kind of shows how much belief they have in Albert O. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but the Broncos seem to like him a lot. So I think he could definitely be we'll see where he goes in redraft leagues, but he could definitely be a double-digit round target. But yeah, I mean, I haven't heard the Lockett to Denver rumors that you've heard, but obviously that would shake up that receiving core a lot if it's that trio. But as it stands right now, obviously Judy and Sutton get a big boost with the big quarterback upgrade. I think that kind of goes without needing to be said. Who are you leaning towards career between Judy and Sutton and fantasy this upcoming season? If you had to choose one?
I'd say Judy because, Russ has that ability to throw deep, and Judy, his route running is ridiculous. We've seen it so many times at Alabama and at Denver with quarterbacks like Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, and Kendall Hinton for one game. So, I mean, I would say Judy is pretty much boosted out of this because Russell Wilson's accuracy throwing the ball is, something that we just never seen before in this generation. And Judy could potentially be that guy. Everyone was looking for him to be as pretty much one of the higher draft picks back in that 2019 class. I believe it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken. But in that draft class that he was in, everyone was trying to say, okay, Jerry Judy's going to be that guy. He's going to lead Denver because they had no receivers or the receivers were questionable. But now they were looking toward the quarterback. They finally got their quarterback. And I think Jerry Judy's going to be boosting. And I know Sai is going to be loving that one. So, yeah. I mean, the Seahawks players, obviously, it's just a tricky situation because who knows who the Seahawks quarterback is. Obviously, there's so many odds out there. Favorite right now is Drew Lock. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's in there pending his legal investigation. And now you mentioned it because Washington it has found their new quarterback. We're going to get that in a little bit. But because Washington has a new quarterback, it's kind of just down to the Panthers who are still looking for theirs and the Seahawks who are now entered the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. So, but if we do get Deshaun, obviously one name that on the Seahawks that's still there, DK, hopefully still there for this next coming season. Obviously he's going to have pretty much a big target on his back. Hopefully the Lockett situation is not true. I've just seen a couple tweets about it. I've not really seen too much more on top of that.
I saw the rumors too, but I think if they do make this move for Watson, they're definitely not trading Lockett or Metcalf. Like they're still going to go all in if they make the trade for Watson. But if they can't make the move for Watson and they go into the rebuild, then I think at that point trading will probably more likely Lockett this offseason, and then maybe Metcalf maybe next offseason depending on what his situation is. But yeah, I mean, I saw the rumors with Lockett. I just didn't see to Denver specifically, but yeah, I mean, if the Seahawks can make the splash for Watson, then they're keeping everyone, and I would say Lockett, Metcalf's fantasy value stay the same, but anyone else at quarterback for the Seahawks this year, and I think there's a pretty good chance we'll see Lockett in a different uniform this upcoming season. And then obviously Metcalf gets a pretty big downgrade. Even though, I mean, with his size, he could probably make the most out of a poor situation if you just throw the ball up to him in 50 balls. But I mean, yeah, obviously losing Russell Wilson isn't going to benefit anyone on this offense.
And not to mention our offensive line struggles. I mean, even if Deshaun still comes, he's still going to be running for his life, so he's not going to have much time to throw the ball. And for any quarterback in our system now, Drew Lock or Malik Willis or whoever we draft or whatever, it's still not a guarantee or anything. So,
Yeah.
But I'd say definitely Broncos players have a big boost. I mean, people are saying that they're Super Bowl contenders, and that's all they were just a quarterback away, and they got it. So, yeah, Denver's going to have a good year.
All I'm going to say is I am really hoping that Denver does not bring back Melvin Gordon from a fantasy perspective because I want to see Javonte get unleashed in this offense. That's all I'm going to say. But
oh yeah,
I don't know. It sounds like there's mutual interest with Melvin and the Broncos. So
I mean, considering Russ did play at Wisconsin, and Melvin Gordon went to Wisconsin, so that's that connection.
But I don't know. I like last year, it was like pretty much like 50-50 roughly between Melvin and Javonte. But like entering year 2 for Javonte and Melvin being another year older, like I still think that even if the Broncos do bring back Melvin Gordon, I still think it will be like a 60-40 in favor of Javonte. So like even if the Broncos do bring him back, I don't think it's the end of the world for Javonte from a fantasy football perspective. But I would rather have them have Mike Boone as the backup and then let Javonte be the workhorse. But we'll get into free agency probably like Friday as it starts next week. So we kind of knew this was coming once Wilson was traded, but the trade of Wilson led to the release of Bobby Wagner, which in some ways was just as bad, if not worse, of a loss for Seahawks fans. I think he was due I want to say like 14 or 16 million. So I was hoping that they could trade him and get something back, but in another way, it was going to be tough. And with all that he's given to the Seahawks, it's better to get and let him choose where he wants to go as opposed to trading him to where he maybe doesn't want to go. But it's Russell Wilson and Wagner were the last 2 players from the Seahawks Super Bowl era. So it truly is the 100% end of that whole team and that whole era. Korea, what were your thoughts on this?
I mean, I knew it was coming. I'm not gonna lie, I knew it was coming. It just hurt. I mean, obviously, pretty much since he came into the league at Utah State, Wagner's kind of been the Russell Wilson of our defense, the core, the guy everyone turns to, the guy everyone looks to. We've seen him. The amount of tackles this man makes every season is absolutely ridiculous. He's an All-Pro. He's a Pro Bowler. He is just he dedicated so much to the city, and I obviously would have wanted some compensation from him as well, but I knew that was not going to be the right move for Bobby Wagner. I think just letting him choose where he wants to go as well is a better situation, but it still hurts. I mean, I saw so many tweets, Instagram stories, you name it, talking about end of an era. And it's just hit me it already hit me last night, but it's just hitting me like it's the end. Like the Legion of Boom, that 2013 Seahawks team, 2014, gone. Like it's just gone. And I mean, that's just sports, but at the same time, it's just hard because, Russell Wilson, I literally have watched this man play his whole career in Seattle. This man only missed 5 or 6 games, most of them coming in his last season because he never missed a game. He brought so much to the city, and don't even forget Bobby Wagner. I mean, you just name all those guys on that Legion of Boom defense, and you know how much they did for this city. And Bobby Wagner was that last guy, on that Legion of Boom. We talked about Richard Sherman going to Tampa, Ola Thomas still out of the league, but, was in Baltimore for a little bit. Cam Chancellor retired. Byron Maxwell's out of the league. And then Bobby Wagner was that last guy. KJ Wright got released. Bobby Wagner's now, and I knew that it was coming because after the KJ Wright release, I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. I knew Bobby Wagner was probably going to be released in like the next 2 years. I was hoping one more year with him to be that core in the center of our defense, but I guess we're just starting from scratch. So it's the end of an era. It's sad, but I guess we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, I mean, we even saw guys like Doug Baldwin and Cliff Averill on Twitter, like even hitting all these other Seahawks players from that team hard, who are no longer on the team. Most of them no longer in the league by now, but it wasn't just fans, but former players as well. Well, I don't know if you've given any thought to this, but could you see him going? Like I was thinking, like Kansas City or Dallas, like something like that. I mean, obviously he's going to want to sign with a contender, obviously.
I was gonna say he's definitely gonna want to sign a contender, and I'd say Dallas. Maybe that's a good contender. Obviously, they are definitely struggling for cap room right now. Obviously, with potentially releasing DeMarcus Lawrence, we already see the Amari Cooper drama, him probably being traded or released, probably more released, and the restructuring of Dak's contract. So Dallas, it's just a tricky situation just because of how much cap room they really have. And I know Bobby Wagner's going to want some money considering of what he's done for Seattle and just what he's done in the NFL. And then you turn to Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City would be an interesting fit for him. Obviously, that linebacker core is not really, really well known. Everyone talks about the Tyrann Mathieu, but now it seems like Tyrann Mathieu is not going to be returning to the Chiefs. So they kind of need that guy, that middle of the defense. And I think Bobby Wagner would be a good fit for Kansas City. And it'd be kind of interesting to see Russell Wilson go against Bobby Wagner twice a year in that division. So, I mean, if Kansas City wants Bobby Wagner, I think it'd be a good fit for that defense. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, so I think that will do it for the Seahawks talk. And now we'll get into the other major news that happened the other day. There was all the drama leading up to it. Most thought Aaron Rodgers was originally going to leave Green Bay, but then as it kind of got closer, it seemed more likely he might stay in Green Bay. And it was 4 years, $200 million, I believe. Obviously, a lot of money, and we'll get into the franchise tag players in a bit, but you knew that they were going to tag Adams once they got this deal done with Rodgers. So they had all that last dance stuff on Twitter last offseason, and now they're back this upcoming year. Obviously Rodgers, back-to-back MVP. Obviously he's still playing at a super high level, but his play in the playoffs is what is kind of the most controversial, I guess. I believe they have like pretty much every receiver except for Cobb was going to be a free agent this upcoming year. So now they'll get Adams back. But, I mean, I would assume that they can probably bring back one of like Lazard or MVS on like a minimum deal because I don't really see them getting too much. I don't see them having too much of a market elsewhere. So I assume that they're going to bring back at least one of those two. I know there's some talk about Green Bay releasing Randall Cobb, but I assume that was assuming that Rodgers was going to leave. So they might bring him back Cobb for one more year. And then maybe they finally they got Amari Rodgers in NFL drafts, but maybe they finally go after a big receiver in the NFL draft because they don't really have the money at this point to sign a big name free agent. So they'll either need to get like a veteran minimum free agent or a couple receivers in the NFL draft. Korea, what do you have in all of this?
I mean, I found it kind of funny yesterday, but I was thinking about him like damn, the whole Russell Wilson drama just took over the fact that Aaron Rodgers signed a 4-year, $200 million contract literally 2 hours before. Like that was I mean, I knew it was either Green Bay, Denver, because obviously he was so linked to Denver pretty much this whole offseason. So I think that's what Denver was kind of banking on was the idea that, okay, it's either Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. And that was pretty much what was going on in Denver's front office. And as soon as Aaron Rodgers committed to Green Bay, they're like, okay, let's go to Seattle. But Aaron Rodgers, I mean, obviously the whole big kind of crazy thing was this is going to be his last year because of the whole last ride nonsense that him and Devontae posted last offseason. And you mentioned it's kind of ironic that they're both back here again, but Aaron Rodgers is going to stay here for a little longer, obviously with the 4-year deal. But it's kind of crazy that this man was either considering retirement or the Broncos. So he wasn't even considering Pittsburgh, and a lot of people linked him to Pittsburgh. So he wasn't even considering that, which is kind of interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in that Green Bay situation. I think it's kind of interesting just thinking about how Aaron Rodgers, one of the baddest players during the regular season. We see what he does during the regular season. He just absolutely whoops on opponents. But then everything comes into question as soon as he makes it to the postseason. And Aaron Rodgers in January is always a big question for people. So I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe obviously you talked about more receiver core help, but obviously with that big contract for Aaron Rodgers, and obviously following the franchise tag to Davante Adams, which was definitely expected. It looks like obviously they're going to have to decide that veteran minimum, which is going to be very, very small or, very hard to find, or they're going to have to look to the draft. Obviously the whole, Randall Cobb situation you talked about, and, they got Amari Rodgers in the draft in, I think, the second or third round, but still, I mean, it's not really helping the problem. I mean, you guys, you have so many inconsistencies just in terms of health. I mean, you have Lazard, but he was injured, and then you have Scantling, and then you have St. Brown. So it's just a bunch of questions, but Aaron Rodgers is staying. Davante Adams is staying. I personally thought Aaron Rodgers was going to leave just because of how they went out last year against the Niners in the playoff, barely putting up 10 points off of scoring. But I guess Aaron Rodgers sees something that we don't in Green Bay. So, I mean, it's kind of like the Crazy X thing. Like, it's like a red flag. like you still go back to that program. Like, you still go back, even though it's a red flag. So, I mean, I guess Aaron Rodgers sees something that we don't.
Yeah, it seems like originally his relationship with the front office was obviously really bad with the whole Jordan Love situation and stuff, but it seems like that's kind of gotten better over the past year, and I think that's been the big reason why he ended up staying in Green Bay. So now we'll dive into the breaking news as of like an hour ago, with Washington, who were originally linked to. They wanted Russell Wilson. They were linked to Deshaun Watson. They were linked to like every quarterback, and now they trade. I think it was 2/3 and second for Carson Wentz, taking on all of his contract. I don't know. I don't really know. Like, I think Wentz is maybe a slight upgrade over Heineke, but I don't really know how big an upgrade he is, to be honest, from a real life standpoint. I think he'll be good for Terry McLaurin in fantasy football. But for Washington, from a real life standpoint, what do you think, Korea?
Yeah, I don't see a big upgrade for Washington. Obviously, like you mentioned, Washington was linked to guys like Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and, better quarterbacks who are more reliable. But they were even talking about drafting Malik Willis. And it just seemed like Washington scrambled and said, F it, we'll just trade for Carson Wentz. And that was like their last hope, because I guess they didn't see any potential in Malik Willis at the draft because they got their quarterback already. So I think it was like a last hitch effort. I don't really see Washington, really being that team. We've seen Carson Wentz's inconsistencies throughout the season. We saw it last year in Indy. I mean, losing to the Jags in a must-win game when the Jags are at the bottom of the NFL right now, and used in that fashion, like that just shows you like the inconsistencies of Carson Wentz. Everyone looks at him as, like this former MVP, but now he's turning into this guy who just can't get it done anymore, and just the injury ruined his career. So for Washington, I mean, this is a big question, obviously. I think Indy just wanted to flip the trade they did with Philly because obviously they realized how bad of a trade that was. Losing all those, losing that first round pick, and you trade Carson Wentz, don't even make the playoffs. Meanwhile, Philly does make the playoffs with Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, but for Washington, it just seems like a latch hit effort. I don't see any success. Obviously, you mentioned for fantasy, Terry McLaurin boosted up, and yeah, maybe even J.D. McKissick, because Carson Wentz loves to throw to those backup running backs, those third down backs, passing backs. So maybe J.D. McKissick as well, could be a good PPR slot, PPR flex maybe if, Carson stays healthy. But I don't see any real success coming out now. But I mean, we get to see Carson Wentz finally play Philly, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that would be fun. And now it puts the Colts in the quarterback market. We know that they've been linked to Garoppolo for a while. Jameis Winston is an option in free agency. I mean, they're kind of in like a win now mode still, so they're not. I don't see them going to the draft for a rookie. I mean, Garoppolo makes sense with a good defense and a good running game. So I guess if I just make a prediction, I would probably say Garoppolo. Do you agree, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's Garoppolo. I mean, he fits that system perfectly. Obviously, that dominant O-line, and then obviously Jonathan Taylor, one of, if not the best running back in football last year, definitely the best football from a fantasy football standpoint, but just yards on the ground, he was ridiculous last year. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, I think he fits that offense well better than the Niners, because obviously the Niners is more, West Coast style and, mobile QB and having your, quarterback run, and that's what the Trey Lance experiment is going to be. So Jimmy G, obviously he was linked to, I think, Tampa Bay, who is still in the quarterback. Also, yeah, Tampa Bay, we forget Tampa Bay obviously is still in the quarterback conversation after the GOAT retired. But yeah, you mentioned Indy. I heard Marcus Mariota potentially. That could be interesting to see how he does as a starter again after being the backup for Derek Carr for like the past couple of years, couple seasons. But yeah, Indy right now is now entered the quarterback market. They're definitely win now mode. I think Jimmy G fits that system perfectly. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much an upgrade Garoppolo would be over Wentz, but I mean, they got to do something. And I mean, Winston could be an option again, but yeah, Garoppolo makes sense just on paper, I think, with the Colts. So now we'll get into the franchise tag from the other day. Just going through a list, we saw Chris Godwin get tagged. Jags offensive tackle Cam Robinson. We talked about Devontae Adams, Dalton Schultz of the Cowboys, Orlando Brown, the left tackle for the Chiefs, Jesse Bates, the safety for the Bengals, Njoku, the tight end for the Browns, Mike Gesicki of the Dolphins, and then a few notable players that weren't tagged were Harold Landry and J.C. Jackson were a couple of the notable names. One player that was in the talks of being tagged but got an extension was Mike Williams. I think it was like a 3-year, $60 million, I believe. I thought he was going to get tagged, but I mean the deal can work out. Its only issue is just staying healthy. I mean, if you can stay healthy, it'll work out. But clearly the Chargers believed in him. I'm not sure because I know the Jags were potentially going to look at I think Evan Neal, the Alabama offensive tackle with number 1 overall, but maybe now with tagging Robinson, maybe they go with Hutchinson, the Michigan defensive end, so that could shake up the number 1 pick. I mean, yeah, I guess like guys like Godwin were expected to be tagged. Gesicki was expected. I don't know if Schultz was expected, at least that's what I've seen, but he looked good last year. And I guess if the Cowboys do get rid of Cooper, then Schultz will be just another weapon for them to go along with Lamb, and they'll probably get someone else in the draft or free agency. Were there any surprises for you, Korea, there?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it was just kind of intriguing to see. Obviously, Devontae Adams was tagged just because of Aaron Rodgers' contract. So, but it would have been interesting to see like where Devontae Adams would have ended up testing free agency if Aaron Rodgers would have left Green Bay. Obviously, you mentioned Chris Godwin. That was expected. I'm glad the Chargers worked out a deal with Mike Williams. That was pretty much one of the big questions for that organization. Trying to either try and get a deal for Mike Williams or just put him on the tag. And I thought Mike Williams deserves a good deal, and that's a good deal for him. You mentioned Harold Landry. He just got his deal last night, so that was big for him. So he doesn't have to worry But you mentioned also J.C. Jackson. That's a big one. He's probably going to be testing the free agent market, so he'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But yeah, Bengals with Jesse Bates, that's obvious. They needed that secondary. They needed pretty much all of that defense to stay if they want to have a chance at repeating being AFC champions. I would say Dalton Schultz is a little surprising, but at the same time, the Cowboys just have pretty much little to no money in their cap space right now with the whole Amari Cooper situation, and then potentially releasing DeMarcus Lawrence, who's one of the key members of that defense. So, but at the same time, I think they're probably going to go through with getting rid of Amari. So you're right. That's just another weapon for Dak, along with CeeDee Lamb, and it looks like they're probably going to bring Gallup back. So now CeeDee and Gallup, along with Dalton Schultz, who had proved him to be a pretty decent tight end before he got injured. So not really too many big surprises. A lot more of what I kind of expected, but just glad that Chargers worked out a deal with Mike Williams.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that'll do it for the NFL talk for this episode. Not done yet for this episode, just for NFL talk. Free agency, I think, starts on maybe.
I think it's
Monday?
I think it's a 1 week.
Next week. So I think on Friday's episode, we'll kind of maybe give some predictions for the top free agents and where they might land. So that'll be Friday, and then probably Monday into next week. So now we'll get into college basketball. Korea, do you want to go over kind of what happened the last couple of days?
Yeah, let's start on Monday. First, we had two finals. We had Georgia State and obviously Louisiana. We talked about the Sun Belt title earlier in that episode, and Georgia State ended up winning that contest. Georgia State pulled away from it, winning 80-71, hitting their free throws as of late in the second half of that game. And the Georgia State Panthers are going back to the dance for the first time since 2019. They are projected to be around the 16 seed. I have them as a 16. They may move up to a 15 if, some of these other bid stealers in the conference, make some moves. But that was a good game. But that got overshadowed by the game of the night, which was the SoCon championship between Furman and Chattanooga. What a game. That pretty much has to be one of the best games I've seen this year, let alone in March, that I've pretty much ever seen. I mean, this was a championship game. This was back and forth all game. I watched the last pretty much 5 minutes and then going into overtime. So it was just back and forth. I mean, Furman, what's his name? Pretty much their leading scorer. Let me look at, I forgot his name.
Chattanooga was up by 16 with 11 minutes left, right? They were up big for most of the second half until the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, Furman started slowly coming back, just hitting, just going to the rim and just driving. But it was, I believe it was either Mike. No, it wasn't. I think it was Mike Bothwell or I think it was Alex Hunter. One of those two. Step back three with 4 seconds left in regulation to tie the game. That was one of the craziest shots. He drove in with the left, pop back out, step back, fade away three. I was like, there's no way this is going in. And it goes in crazy. And then that game goes into overtime since it was tied at 51. And then in overtime, the same situation, tied at 61. I think it was Hunter again, drives with the left, drives to the lane with 4 seconds, gets the layup. And then the story continues there. Chattanooga takes it up the court. They don't use a timeout. They had one left. David John Baptiste just goes cross court, hits it from the spot where he called it earlier, and it just went in. It was crazy. It was magical. That's what March is. This is March. So that was a crazy game, but Chattanooga pulled it off. Mocs are now going dancing, winning the Southern Conference. That was pretty much the game of the year. Fantastic ending. Pretty much a Cinderella story. And now yesterday, we had a lot more finals yesterday. We had the ASUN championship between Jackson and Bellarmine. This one was a crazy situation. So Bellarmine, because they're not NCAA tournament eligible yet because of their transition from D2 to D1, they were basically playing for the right to be ASUN champions, but not going to the tournament. And so because of that, the ASUN said that whoever wins the regular season is going to the dance. And so because Jacksonville beat Jacksonville State and Jacksonville State was the number one team in the conference. And because Bellarmine beat Jacksonville, so now Jacksonville State is going to the tournament instead of Jacksonville. It's a stupid rule, but I mean, it ended up working out for Jacksonville State, so they are going dancing. The Gamecocks, Jacksonville State, they looked pretty good throughout their season. Tough loss to Jacksonville in the semis, but now they're going back. You got to feel sorry for the Jacksonville program right now. You lose the title and you think you should be going because the team that beat you is not going. So you think you should be going for making it this far. But I guess NCAA needs to fix their rules with that. So, Jacksonville State is going to the big dance. I think at 21-10, they're projected to be around a 15. I have them as a 15 as well. So that should be interesting to see. Out of the Northeast, this one was a crazy game between Wagner and Bryant, number 1 and 2 in the Northeast Conference. This game was at Bryant, and this got hectic with like 4 minutes to go. Bryant was controlling this whole game, down to the wire. They were up by 30 with like 4 minutes left, and some fight broke out in the stands, and Wagner players were trying to get into the crowd, and one of them got ejected. It was a crazy situation, crazy scene right there at Bryant. They were talking about how the governor of the state was there and how, the athletic director was there, and the game was almost going to be called off. So it was just a crazy situation, but they got back in it. Wagner, they had to be separated. There was a lot of police enforcement in that game, which was crazy, but they ended up finishing the game. Bryant defeated Wagner by 27.
And Bryant could be a team they keep an eye on to see where they match up with, because they have Peter Kiss, who's the leading scorer in the country. And so if they get what are they, like a 14 seed or 13? Or
I think a lot of people are saying they're maybe like a 15 or a 16. Unfortunately,
we've seen 15 over 2 upsets. So if they get, again, this is the same example we always use Auburn. If they, they have a pretty good offense, Bryant. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to mention it, but you mentioned right there, Peter Kiss, the best scorer in the country. He averaged about 24 a game, and he dropped 34 in this game last night against Wagner. So we'll see how they match up. If they match up with like an Auburn, it'll be interesting to see if they can catch up or if they'll just lock him down so much that he's not going to be their guy anymore. So it'll be interesting to see where Bryant's placed, but the Bulldogs are going dancing for the first time in school history too. So congratulations to Bryant. They are going dancing for the first time. The next game to finish was the Colonial Championship yesterday between Delaware and UNC Wilmington. This game came down to the wire. Delaware, the 5 seed out of the Colonial, they pulled out the win. And so, get this, the Blue Hens. Yes, the Blue Hens, one of my favorite mascot names ever. Delaware, they're going back to the tournament, 21-12. A lot of people saying they're like a solid 16, not first 4, maybe a 15. So it'll be interesting to see where Delaware ends up. They're not really they're more of a defensive team. So if you have a high scoring offense, maybe in the first round, that'll be interesting to see how that matchup works out, like a Gonzaga or an Arizona, depending on who they play in the first round. Another final we had was the Horizon League. This league never disappoints me in March because all the craziness and wackiness. But Wright State, who was the 4 seed,
I think this was the 16-point lead I was thinking of. It wasn't Chattanooga Furman. It was this game yesterday where Wright State versus who again?
It was Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, Northern Kentucky's up at like 16 with 10 minutes left, and Wright State came storming. Yeah, this was the game.
Wright State, they just came back. The Norse had a pretty comfortable lead as well, but just the wackiness of the Horizon League and the Raiders, who are, I believe, 20-13, are now 21-13. Excuse me. They are going dancing for the first time since I believe 2018. When they made the tournament after winning the Horizon League there. They're a 16 seed. They're a first 4 team. I don't see them making any big noise, but just, the craziness of the Horizon League, we love to see it. Another final yesterday, obviously, was the West Coast Conference, Gonzaga and St. Mary's, pretty much 2 best teams in the conference. Gonzaga, number 1 overall team in the country. St. Mary's, a solid 5 or 6 seed in the tournament right now. Gonzaga, it was close. This game was very close throughout pretty much the whole game. And then Gonzaga near the end just ran the clock down and just made St. Mary's so tired on defense that they just, controlled the game throughout the last 5 minutes and they got the win. So Gonzaga, obviously we knew they were going to the tournament, but they have officially punched their ticket into March Madness, defeating St. Mary's. Ari, I'm pretty sure you watched some of this. Quick thoughts on Gonzaga St. Mary's last night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Gonzaga clinches number 1 seed, the overall number 1 seed with this win. That was nothing really left they had to play for. It seemed like in the first half at times, like towards the end, they're going to run away with it. I think they were up by, 10 at half, I believe. And then St. Mary's kind of just kept it close within like the 5 to 10 range the first like half of the second half. And then I think they're only down to like 4 with like 6 minutes left. I was covering a baseball game, so I was like doing 2 things at once. But like I look over, I think they're down by 4 with like 6 minutes left. And then I look over like 5 minutes later, and they're up like 11 with like 3 minutes left. So yeah, obviously they had that matchup circled on their calendar after losing to them like a week or 2 ago. So they got their revenge and they got the overall number 1 seed. And yeah, I mean St. Mary's, even they're still going to be. Where do you have St. Mary's on your bracketology?
I have St. Mary's is probably like a 5 or 6. I think they're a solid 6 right now, led by Tommy Kuzi. They're a solid team. They can get a win or 2 in this tournament, just depending on who they're matched up with.
Yeah. So so they'll definitely be a team to watch to see what region they're in and who they match up with. And then obviously Gonzaga, as always, will be one of the top favorites to go all the way, as they are pretty much every year.
And the final championship game yesterday was out of the Summit League. South Dakota State, big favorites. They ran the table throughout this conference. They were playing North Dakota State. It was very close pretty much throughout the second half. First half, looked like South Dakota State was a little bit more controlling of this game. But North Dakota State, the Bison, slowly, crawled back into this game, even taking the lead like late with 5 minutes left. And then all of a sudden, South Dakota State, one of the best scoring offenses in the country in terms of field goal percentage. They just do what they do best. They shoot the ball and they make buckets pretty much. And South Dakota State pulled away with the win, going 30-4 overall, and running the table in the Summit League. They are officially going dancing for the first time since 2018. South Dakota State, they're a very dangerous team. I have them as a 12 seed right now. They could definitely be upsetting one of your favorite teams. I mean, just the way they score the ball. I mean, even in a bad game for them, they still shot 40% from behind the arc and 43% from the field. So if this team gets hot with the high scoring that they are, if they get matched up with this, very defensive 6 or 5 seed, then it's going to be very dangerous for that team, to stop this offense, how well they shoot the ball. So South Dakota State's officially going dancing. I have them as a 12 seed right now, playing Houston in the first round. That'd be an interesting matchup, but South Dakota State, definitely a good team. Keep an eye on them. They can make some noise. They could be a good Cinderella team this year. And that's pretty much what's going on so far as of today. And we entered today. It is Wednesday. It's currently about 1 o'clock on the West Coast. So far, big games out of this conference. Big games today. Boston College and Wake Forest. That game is on right now. Currently, I'm looking at the game, and Wake Forest is currently up by 2 with 11 minutes to go. And obviously, bigger conferences start today. Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, SEC. Big East. All the bigger conferences. Obviously, ACC started yesterday, but tomorrow and Friday and Saturday are going to be some of the games where you want to tune in, to see those, at-large teams battle it out for that position, especially tomorrow morning. I know I'm going to regret this, but 8:30 in the morning, Indiana and Michigan. I'm going to have to watch that one. But, this is Champ Week, and so far, not too many big, big shockers out of conferences. The only really big question now is just who the last 4 in and who the first 4 out. And Wake Forest, if they lose this game, I think they could potentially be one of the first teams out, losing to a bad Boston College team in the ACC tournament in your first game, or keeping it close like it is right now. So, Wake Forest is definitely a team to keep your eye on, but Champ Week is still going on. And today we have one championship final between Colgate and Navy out of the Patriot League. Colgate is the favorite in this game. It's a home game because obviously they do at campus sites. Colgate comes in at 22-11. They are pretty much one of the best scoring offenses in the Patriot League. Navy, they come in second. They are, 21-10. The Navy, the midshipmen, they're a pretty good shooting team. One of their big faults is their free throw shooting percentage. They cannot shoot at the line for their lives. They have one of the worst free throw shooting percentages in the country. But the way they play defense is going to be, one of their biggest tasks in this game. So this should be a good championship game tonight. But yeah, other than that, conference tournaments are really getting going now. A lot of first and second round action right now. Some quarterfinal action, but a lot of the semis and finals are going to be coming throughout this weekend. So keep an eye on those bubble teams as we head into Thursday.
Yeah, and then Saturday and then Sunday morning will be most of the championships for the bigger conferences. So we'll preview those as part of Friday's episode. We'll probably talk some NFL free agency as well. We'll see if there's any more updates in MLB. There's been some back and forth. I guess it's another deja vu. Like last night, they had another 16-hour meeting, and they thought today could be the day a deal gets done. But now it's like last time where it's little progress is being made. So that'll be another topic we'll keep an eye on. Hopefully have an update on Friday to talk about. But yeah, for now, thank you all for tuning into this episode. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and leave a like on the video if you haven't already. As always, we go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Not really at a set time, but I always kind of schedule them ahead of time so you guys can see if you are subscribed when we'll go live. And yeah, we'll catch you all on Friday.